Hi, my name is Keval Shah. This is SC462 Synthetic Biology, and this video is about my synthetic biology course project, and it is titled Synthetic Biology and Non-Renewable Resources. So you can see that this video focuses on synthetic biology being the solution to non-renewable resources. And we look into all the aspects considering from the need of this application and the different methods that synthetic biology has to provide for non-renewable resource sustainability, and what the efforts of industries have been put into, and finally we will conclude the experiments, observations, and present an abstract about what exactly this video is about. Thank you. Most non-renewable energy resources are fossil fuels. These fossil fuels comprise of coal, petroleum, and natural gas. Other than fossil fuels, metals and non-metals such as aluminium, gold, iron, etc. also be a part of the non-renewable resources. And oil giant BP, in its annual report, has said that the global oil reserves will expire in currently 53.3 years at the current usage rate. So you can see why there is lots of money going on to research on trying to limit the use of fossil fuels and find an alternative to them. Now, synthetic biology, on the other hand, is the design and construction of new biological parts, devices, and systems, and the redesigning of existing natural biological systems for useful purposes. So, when we group synthetic biological techniques to techniques of saying fossil fuels, we get a lot of unique, faster, and cheaper methods other than the current alternatives. In the next part, we will discuss these techniques which, as a part of advancement in synthetic biology, cater to this issue. One such technique is the production of biofuels using synthetically modified organisms. Now, for these organisms, we prefer bacteria over plants. The reason is that they are easy and cheap to grow in labs. However, plants have an advantage that they are more compatible with the current agricultural setups. But for high growth rate and very speedy research, we go over with bacteria. Synthetic biologists hope to change the organisms so that the oil they produce is chemically similar or identical to the oil used in transportation and energy infrastructure. For this, the scientists of University of Turku in Finland and Imperial College of London used the E. coli bacteria to interrupt the biological process that turns fatty acids into cell membranes. This process was interrupted and then engineered in such a way that the alternate pathway leads to the production of propane. So let us go a bit deeper into the previous technique. The researchers over at the University of Turku and the Imperial College of London used a certain compound that we'll be talking about to make the channeling of the process of conversion of fatty acids into membranes. Now, to interrupt the original process, the researchers discovered a new variant of an enzyme. It was called thioesterase. Now, thioesterase, which specifically targets the fatty acids and releases them from the natural process. Then they used a second bacterial enzyme called CAR, that is to convert butyric acid into butyraldehyde. Finally, they added a recently discovered enzyme called aldehyde deformulating oxygenase ADO, which is also a naturally created hydrocarbon, in order to form propane from the butyraldehyde. Now, the level of propane that these scientists produce is currently 1000 times less than what would be needed to turn into a commercial product. So, they are now working on refining their newly designed synthetic process. In the next 5 to 10 years, we expect to see an industrially applicable commercial product. Okay, so previously we discussed an efficient method provided by synthetic biology to replace fossil fuels. But the second question that comes to our mind is that what's the best method to replace non renewable sources other than fossil fuels? So like minerals like iron for example. So yeah, we have a lot of microorganisms that can be exploited and genetically modified to extract these minerals. We'll show you one such method that was discovered by a scientist, a very famous scientist, to extract ferromagnetic ore and then iron from that ore from a bacteria. Okay, so we have an microorganism, subspecies of bacteria called the purple bacteria or the magnetotatic bacteria. Now, what these bacteria would together do is they create ferromagnetic nanoparticles, which contain magnetite or greigite, which are ores of iron, and they do this inside their bodies. This allows them to orient themselves using the geomagnetic field. Thus, they use these ores to uh, orient towards the direction in which their food is. Now, a group of famous researchers led by Dr. Sang Yam Pli, they recently reported that the intracellular formation of several types of these bacteria include alkali earth metals and magnetic nanoparticles. So we are talking about metals and minerals other than ores, iron ores. Furthermore, the researchers could control the size of these biogenetic particles by varying the metal ion concentration in the cellular environment. The example for this experiment can be seen in many of the genetically synthesized nanoparticles. This group of researchers was also successful to synthesize silver, gold, and other compounds such as CDCS, FeCO, and etc. Apart from research groups at universities and labs, corporations are also involved towards developing new techniques using synthetic biology to cut down the fossil fuel use. For example, Ambris Biotechnology is working with BP to generate fuel from using synthetic modified yeast and sugarcane juice. Similarly, Virgin Atlantic has invested in a company known as Geno to produce biofuels which may be directly used in one of its planes. Another company called Solazim, an algae energy firm based in Francisco, uses genetically engineered marine algae to turn biomass into biodiesel through its patented process. Similarly, General Motors and Costaca use synthetic bacteria and gasification technology to convert everything from wood to old tires into pure ethanol, a process which will leapfrog cellulosic ethanol production. After combining the observations from the strategies proposed, the outcomes from the experiment, and finally the statistics from the corporate efforts, we comment upon the reach of synthetic biology techniques to cater the non-renewable resource query. The current projects taken up by the research teams across the globe are very promising and are sure to achieve industry level productivity in the upcoming years. It is very likely that the answer to the fossil fuel exhaustion will be provided through the means of a synthetic biology technique. There are other projects that are still under development and are yet to be released in public until the final product has been developed. The world is on the tracks to integrate biology into generation of major chunk of energy. Thank you. Thanks a lot.